Okay.
Oh, so it's recording
Yeah,
then? Oh,
it's
okay,
your voice.
okay, so you don't need...
I don't know.
So let me step back and just
Okay.
repeat then for the right ear. So we test, just based on the report, we knew that the right ear was likely the better ear. Obviously, we were going to test both ears, but
Right.
that's where we start. We like to start audiologically where the better ear is.
Right.
So in the right ear, I'm finding for a nice robust or a nice loud response, we're seeing a nice clear normal ABR. And then for the different frequencies, we're seeing threshold down to the normal range for 500, 1,000, 2,000, and 4,000 hertz. So that's the speech frequency range. So if you look at an audiogram, which I don't have with me, I apologize, these are the frequencies where all the speech sounds occur. So those are our we key into those frequencies. The ear can hear more than that, a broader range than just 500 through 4,000 hertz, but those are the important frequencies for speech.
Yeah.
And when we talk about hearing loss in kids, speech development communication is on the top of our mind, because communication, the cognitive functioning is in with language, right? So if you're going to have any kind of language issues, then you're going to have possible cognitive issues as well. So we really key on in making sure kids have full audibility of language. And we're seeing in the right ear, she has full audibility of spoken language.
Right.
So that's, yeah.
Like I was probably filming her shoe.
Yeah.
I was like, man, on the wall.
Matching socks today. So great. That is good. And actually, if you're going to have unilateral hearing loss and you're going to have one ear that's normal, you want it to be the right ear. The right ear has the more direct access to the language hemisphere of the brain.
I didn't know that.
Doesn't seem to matter as much in girls. In boys it does. It's interesting. But for girls, either way, you still know that we have, basically until we're 13, we have a right ear advantage, where the right ear, the pathways are stronger. So we have anyways, it's better to have that ear as your normal hearing ear, for whatever that's worth.
Yeah.
Exactly. We had to pick. That's the ear we want normal. Okay. We move on to the left. So you saw my nice waveform.
Yep.
Let me take a nice look at that. So you saw this nice waveform in the right. When we do the same thing for the left ear, sorry. Okay. This is the left ear.
Oh.
When we present at 90 decibels, we do see this waveform. We do see something peeking up there.
Huh.
But we did that before we put masking, before we put noise into the right ear. What happens is you present at a certain level, 90 decibels, and it crosses over to the better ear. So if I had an ear...
Did you try to close one of the ears?
You mask it.
Yeah.
But first we'd like to just see what we're getting.
You're masking?
Yeah, so we mask out, right. So we present a very loud sound to the left ear. We get a response. We know that that might not be the response of that left ear, so then we take the right ear out of the picture. We give it that enough masking to keep it busy.
Yeah.
And when we present with masking on the right side, that waveform disappears. So here's 90. I'm going to obviously write.
Yeah.
So here's 90, no masking. So we're getting a response from the right ear there.
The second one's the masking.
The second one, we took the right ear out of the picture and presented 90 decibels to the left ear again, and we're not seeing that waveform.
Yeah.
And neither 80. We usually do a little bit. I think we saw something there. That was unmasked. We went up, still unmasked. Then by the time we masked, this is what we got. So no response at 90. So pretty much at the limits of our equipment, I am seeing no response in the left ear. So that's suggesting a profound hearing loss in the left ear. And that's strongly suggesting. That's saying less profound hearing loss in the left ear. The last thing we did is we presented by bone conduction on the left ear.
So are you trying to figure out where?
Yeah.
Okay.
Exactly. So bone conduction, best example of bone conduction. If you have a child with no ear canal, you never put headphones on that. But if you did put headphones on it, you'd get a response about 60 decibels. When you put the bone oscillator, bypass the ear canal and go straight to the cochlea, you get 0 dB. You get normal hearing. Because once you pass where the ear canal is, in that middle ear space, then you get down to the cochlea, and if it's a normal cochlea, you get normal hearing.
Right.
You just present it differently.
But cochleas can get, I understood they can get calloused or something like that from the meningitis. And
right, exactly.
I'm sorry, I don't know.
Right. So what we don't know is the hearing loss from the fracture or is it from the meningitis?
Yeah.
is unlikely. You see it, but you typically don't see unilateral hearing loss from meningitis. You usually see bilateral. So chances are the hearing loss itself was from the fracture, possibly. There's really no way to confirm that. And you can have a unilateral hearing loss from bacterial meningitis, so it's going to be one of those.
It's not as common.
Not as common.
But you can.
And just like you don't see, like if you give medications that can cause hearing loss, sometimes with the treatment of bacterial meningitis, you give such high doses that the actual medicine can cause hearing loss too. But usually it's systemic, so it's going to go to both cochleas. Not always. So in the literature, we have seen unilateral hearing loss from bacterial meningitis, and we've also seen unilateral one-sided hearing loss with the medication. So it's one of those, probably you're never going to know.
Are you like almost getting nothing then out of the left ear?
Pretty much nothing on the left ear until I do. Okay, so this is the interesting part. When I present by bone conduction, I am getting some responses. So
when you bypass that middle.
Yeah, we're not getting normal cochlear hearing.
Okay.
But I am getting a response, which I didn't expect. But we do it obviously anyways, because we want to see. Let me take it down. Where did you see it? Okay, when we presented a clip. Okay. So here's the, and it's going to look like just a mess, but it really, it pops out too. When you've been doing them for 18 years, it's glaring.
Yeah.
I know somebody looks at it like, what are you
looking at? It's just like you did all these scribbles.
It's a lot of scribbles, but we see a huge repeatable waveform. So this is 45 decibels, and this is masked. We did mask out the right ear. This is truly the left ear. So for a click, when I showed you that right ear click, that nice clean waveform, a click includes lots of different frequencies. So you're basically, it's more of a complex signal versus a simple, like a pure tone, like when you go in to have your hearing tested in a booth, you hear beep, with a pure tone. It's energy just at that one pitch. Whereas speech has all the different frequencies, right? Yeah. It's a complex sound. So we want to see the best response we can. So we start with a click. So that stimulates many regions of the cochlea, different frequencies. So when we do a click by bone conduction, remember we got no response by air conduction. When we deliver it through the ear canal, 90 decibels, we got no response. By bone conduction, we are seeing a response at 45, 40, questionable at 35, and then it's gone. We don't see it at 25. So we're estimating that by the cochlear hearing is better than the cochlear hearing is better.
Yeah.
So we're having some middle ear.
There's something happening.
So we call it a mixed hearing loss. So and in the literature, you can, when you have a skull fracture, you can have a disarticulation. So those little ossicles. And so when you're looking in the ear, you see the eardrum, and then you have three little bones that attach. One attaches to the eardrum, that's the malleus, and then the stapes, the last one, attaches to the cochlea. And that's the little piston that goes in and out of the cochlea and sets up the fluid movement in the cochlea. So those three little bones, those are the smallest bones in our body, they don't necessarily break, but they can be disarticulated, so they can kind of come off their joints, right? So that could be a possibility. So you could have that as well as cochlear damage. If it was just the bones, if it was just those middle ear bones, then we wouldn't have a profound hearing loss. So it's what we call a mixed hearing loss. It's cochlear hearing loss, so it's inner ear as well as middle ear. So does that really change anything? It's hard to say. The click, I got the nice response. Pretty much, we're going to estimate between 35 and 40 as threshold. So that's a mild cochlear hearing loss.
Yeah.
But when we did the different pitches, 4,000 hertz, oh, that's air conduction. I can I'll figure it out. I mastered by page,
so many pages.
I know, it gets a little...
No, I have a few seconds left.
No,
it's no problem. I just want to make sure I understand everything.
No, I think we went through the bulk of it. Yeah, the basics.
Well, I wanted to know.
So by... there's the click, so 12, so 13, 14, 15. Okay, so these. Okay. I mean, you get stimulus artifacts. It's okay. So by 1,000 hertz, I get a response at 55. I get a questionable response at 50. We had to only mild cochlear hearing loss across the board, that she may be a surgical candidate to go and replace those little bones. There's like something they use.
Are you saying she is? I'm sorry. I'm
I
trying to understand.
don't think she is.
Because it's not mild.
No, it's not mild. It's looking moderate, and it's not across the board. So let me show you what I mean. So when we present by 2,000 hertz, that's a higher frequency.
Yeah.
The two highest frequencies I test, I see no response. I know this gets very confusing, but the maximum of a bone oscillator is 50 decibels. So she at least
Wait,
has...
which part of this are you in? What part of the ear are you in this part?
So these 4K and 2K are higher frequencies.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, what part of the ear were you?
So this is by bone conduction.
By bone conduction, okay.
And so I'm not seeing a response from the cochlea for these frequencies at this level, where
That
I
was
was
different
before.
than when you passed, okay.
I know, it does
This
get
is by
very
bone
confusing.
conduction, and the other kind that you saw a response in the cochlea.
Was by bone conduction too.
But it was a different
frequencies.
frequency. So can you
Right.
tell me, do you understand what
See.
frequency she has a harder time with?
Yeah,
Is
the
that-
higher frequencies.
the higher
I wish
ones.
I had an audiogram.
Yeah, because, you know, that's one thing I want to know. Can she hear lowers? Can she hear highers? And would that be, so, and then is she...
Through the ear, the way she hears right now, she's not hearing anything.
In her left ear.
But, right. But at the level of the cochlea, when we bypass the
inner-
middle
The
ear,
middle ear, you say she
she
does hear some.
have some, she does have better hearing at certain frequencies.
Mm.
If
But-
she had
but
better
you're
hearing
never
at,
going to bypass that, right? And then, I mean, unless...
right. What I'm saying is, if by bone conduction across the board, so for all the different pitches,
Yeah.
we were able to get a response, say in the mild hearing loss range,
Yeah.
then
It would be worth
they
it.
may consider, and it would be a long shot, but they may consider repairing that little occipital chain, the little middle ear bone.
Yeah.
But when there's at the level of the cochlea, if the cochlear hearing loss is greater than mild, so it's moderate or worse, they're probably not going to look at that as an option. But I think it's worth going for a consultation. I'll try to make my report as clear as I can, and maybe I'll include I'd love to go over an audiogram is how we chart hearing.
Yeah.
So the right ear would be across the top, we have the different pitches.
Yeah.
The right ear would be across the top, normal.
Yeah.
And then left ear, we could say no response by air conduction, but by bone, you'll see little marks where we are
Sure,
getting a
yeah.
threshold. This makes it a little
Yeah,
nice
it's
to have
visual. Visual, yeah, I understand.
I
Because this is,
believe-
because you're doing different tests in different areas, and so it gets a bit confusing because it's different ways of testing. It's air, it's gone, and then it's
Right.
different parts of the ear, and so I'm like,
Exactly.
okay, wait,
Yeah,
which
where
part
are
is
we
what,
at?
and what kind of, like, what way are you doing it
yeah,
this time?
yeah. So we truly call this hearing loss mixed.
Mm.
So we're seeing the cochlear hearing loss, and we're seeing the middle ear. If it was normal by, so the cochlea was perfect, then we would see better hearing by air conduction. So there's definitely the cochlear, the inner ear component, and there's definitely the middle ear component too.
So the damage is, just repeat where where you're seeing the damage for sure
is
is
both. So
both of them.
yeah, and it
And
is in the literature. So
But more in the middle, right? No, could you get a little bit response or not really?
You know the tricky part? We can only go so far with bone conduction.
But you
Yeah,
can't
we're seeing a
really-
pretty
you
whopping.
can't really tell me.
Yeah, there
For
might
sure,
be
yeah.
what we call an air-bone gap. So our threshold by bone, versus our threshold by air, we call that an air-bone gap. So if we go back to our no ear canal, the air-bone gap is at 0 as far as 50.
19 seconds. Yeah, we're really done. Yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah. I think because you can't test it,
With by air
Yeah.
conduction, I can go up to 90. Actually,
Yeah.
99. I think. Actually,
and you can't test.
for 2000, I went to 105, 105 decibels. No response. 50.